I appreciate that, man. And again, like I'm right there with you. I think we all, like, including myself, like I was consuming the content, taking action on it, and that led to, where I am now, doing something I love. And
here today for episode 5 of the Trusted Advisor Mortgages and More podcast. This is where we talk about entrepreneurship, social media, marketing, basically anything to do with financial services or getting yourself out there on the internet. I'm here with Zain Gaziani. You're with VaynerMedia, or who do you actually work for, Zain?
yeah, so I'm on Team Gary, which is within VaynerMedia.
Excellent. So tell us a little about yourself. A lot of people have seen you online already, and you're kind of a famous story amongst people that are trying to make things happen in their lives.
Yeah, and thanks for having me on, man. So again, I'm Zain. I'm currently a resident on Team Gary, and really I'm focused more on the community side of things. So not an editor, not a videographer, but more on, engaging with the community, finding ways to get people excited, doing a lot of surprise and delights right now, and just making sure that really focusing on giving back to the community as much as we can and being a resource for them. And I started this job about 5 months ago. And prior to that, for the last 6 years, I've been in HR and recruiting for my career, and originally from Dallas, Texas.
That's fascinating. So the different stops you had along the way, there's some really interesting stuff there too, because I see you were at Amazon. What were you doing for geocaching?
Yeah, so it's,
I got a lot of friends that are into that, and so that's going to be fascinating to them.
Oh, that's cool. That's amazing. So, yeah, just to backpedal a little bit. So originally from Dallas, went to the University of Texas at Dallas, and like a lot of people, in college, I didn't have the best grades, but I was really into the extracurricular stuff. So, while I was literally skipping classes so I could go do, be an orientation team mentor, lead the student services committee, be a part of Greek life. And so I was just really involved in being around people. And my last year of college, a lot of, and this is gonna be a longer answer than you expected, but I think it's gonna help. But then my final year of college, I really didn't know what I was gonna do. And I thought I was gonna work at university, in university programming, like work at a university for long term, but my grades were so low that none of the grad programs accepted me. So there I was, square one, last semester of college, no idea what I'm doing with my life. And one of my friends just happened to say, hey, you like working with people, you should look into this thing called human resources, HR. And that led me down doing some research, started applying. I applied to 104 companies for HR roles, and all of them rejected me. And then, yeah, and the only reason I know the number is because it became like a running joke in my friends group, because I was the only one not getting interviews or offers. So we just we were just counting this tally. And the 105th company, the one that I eventually said yes to, was Amazon. And so what happened is I happen to know a person who works as an engineer at Amazon. He actually was someone that worked on the orientation team with me. I reached out to him. I said, hey, I see this job. It's for new grads like me. I gave him my resume. He gave it to a recruiter. And next thing you know, I'm on a call with a recruiter. And 2 weeks later, 2 months later, I'm moving to California to work for Amazon. So that's kind of how I got into HR. Long story short, was with Amazon for about 4 years, did a number of roles with them, Southern California in HR, recruiting in Seattle at the HQ, launched their first site in Cleveland, Ohio as the HR manager there. And I just got burnt out. Long story short, just was working, I was thinking I was working too many hours, but I think now that looking back, I was just working too many hours doing something I didn't love. And I think that's how you get really burnt out pretty fast. So I did that for a year, left with nothing lined up. And long story short, I came across geocaching, which actually I'd heard of, but never actually participated in. Looked into it, started talking to people there, and got a job there as an HR generalist, and moved back to Seattle, Washington. And geocaching, for those who don't know, is like an outdoors GPS adventure where you find different things and really have a lot of fun. And it's a really small company. It's just 80 people in Seattle that are running this worldwide game. So I was there for about a year and a half as an HR generalist and had a blast. It's a really amazing place to work. And what I really loved most about it was actually we had everyone was obviously geocaching, but it was mandatory where you would have 2 hours of a month where you and your team had to go geocaching. And so we would right, like, and that was so much fun. So we'd go on lunch and then we go geocaching, and just a lot of fun memories in that place.
No, that's wonderful, and such an interesting journey to get you to where you're at now, because you were talking about getting burned out, working too many hours at Amazon. I sure see you working a lot now. I bet you're putting in more time now and loving it.
Yeah, dude, I'm so glad you caught that. Like, that's exactly it. Like, I'm literally working more hours now than I worked at Amazon, but I couldn't be happier. Like, I'm literally like, I know this is gonna sound like the most like Kool-Aid thing to say, but I really mean it. Like, Sundays and Saturdays are fun, but I really look forward to Mondays. Like, I love just starting the week fresh, knowing we're gonna, do all these different things that week, and I get excited. Like, I roll in, 8 a.m., 7:30, ready to go. And it's just a different feeling, man. It really is super worthwhile to find something that does excite you, because the hours don't even matter at that point.
Yeah, it makes it fun. I love that. That's just fantastic. Because thinking back to myself over the years, when I've had big projects that I've had to come up with, there have been times when I've worked for years straight, going to midnight, 1 a.m., trying to come up with different things that I'm doing. And it was energizing, and you feel like everything's just going your way and you're having fun, and not wanting to take time off, not wanting to do anything except move the project forward. So that's fantastic. So after that, you ended up back in Dallas again?
Yeah, that's correct. So I was at geocaching for about a year and a half, and I love geocaching. It's a great company, amazing culture. It's small, so you know everyone. But to be honest, like, as much as I love the company, as close as I was with the people there, I just knew HR is not what I was supposed to be doing. And it just led me, I just know, like, I think I was like 2 months in, I had a one-on-one with my manager there at the time, and she's like, cool, like, what do you want to do in HR long-term here? I was like, I don't see myself doing HR long-term anywhere. I just knew, like, 2 months in, it just wasn't my thing. And I still stuck around for a year and a half. And I just knew towards the end, like, I just couldn't keep doing HR this way. And at the time I was like, look, I've been away from my family, which is in Dallas, for 5 years now, both with Amazon and geocaching. How's about I move back to Dallas, and I'll figure it out from there. Maybe I can spend a year in Dallas, and we'll go from there. And so I just moved back to Dallas to kind of figure things out in early 2019.
That's amazing. So it was just luck of the draw. You ended up at that conference where you ran into GaryVee.
Yeah. So let me tell you, so it's so funny how things align, right? So just to give you more context, like, when I was at geocaching starting in late 20s, sorry, I'll back up. I started in geocaching in late 2017. And in mid 2018, Gary and Team Gary had just made a post saying, hey, we're starting this Facebook group called First in Line. It's Gary's official Facebook group. And we're looking for some really excited and hungry volunteer moderators to help, maintain this group, run it, come up with ideas and all that fun stuff. And so, I joined the First Line Facebook group when there were like maybe 1,000 people. I was one of the first people in there. And I happened to, just like everyone else, apply to be a volunteer moderator because I just wanted to see what that was like. I expected there was no chance I was going to get it because I had zero experience. I was just hungry and excited, but I felt that wasn't enough. But sure enough, I somehow became a volunteer moderator. So that's what really started my community management, marketing, that kind of journey. And so every day I'd work at Geocaching HQ, and then I'd come home at night and go all in the Facebook group as a volunteer moderator. And so I did that for like a year as free volunteer moderator. I got to learn community management and marketing that way. And then I also got to get close with some members of Team Gary that way. And then when I moved back to Dallas, I moved back to Dallas on March 2nd of 2019. And literally I landed, and within the hour, I saw that Gary was going to be in Dallas right next to my house 2 weeks later. And so like as soon as I saw that, I reached out to someone, her name is May. May is actually my boss now on Team Gary. And I was working Yeah, and I was actually working with May on the Facebook group as a volunteer moderator for her and Team Gary. So I reached out to May. I just moved back to Dallas, and Gary's going to be here, but he's speaking at a real estate conference, and it's really a big conference, and I can't afford it. Can you hook me up? And she made it happen. So May hooked me up with a free ticket to this event, and sure enough, I went to the event on March 22nd to see Gary speak.
That's just incredible.
Yeah, man, it's funny how it all connects. And so to talk about the conference a little bit, going to the conference to see Gary speak, my only intention was to, one, see Gary speak, because that's something I've always wanted to do. I've never met him in person. Two, if I could meet him in person and tell him thank you for all the positive content and everything he's done for me through his content and videos. And three was to take a selfie. I was like, yo, if I can see him speak, meet him for a second and take a selfie, that's it. That equals win. And so I went to this conference. It's a real estate conference. So everyone's like wearing suits, and I didn't know that was what you're supposed to do. So I roll in there with like this blue hoodie, this like white t-shirt that was like with a coffee stain on it, and these ripped jeans. And I looked like I was there to sell drugs. Like, it was not a good look. I could not
Not
have
a fit for the group.
No, I could not have stuck out more. And so I rolled up on this event, and I got there at like 7 a.m. because I didn't know when Gary was speaking. He was speaking at 3 p.m. So really throughout the day, I'm just meeting people and going to different sessions, learning about real estate. At like 12 p.m., so 3 hours before Gary's speaking, I'm talking with someone from the conference in the lobby, hotel lobby, and in walks Gary. He just walks in. I'm like, oh my God, that's Gary. And like a crazy person, I lock eyes with Gary. Gary looks at me, I look at Gary, and I point at the shoes I'm wearing, because I'm wearing his dark cloud shoes. And I'm just like pointing at him, like frantically, like that's gonna do something. I'm just like pointing down to my shoes, and like he smiles, and he literally signals me to follow him while he's has a phone on. So he has a phone on. He signals me to follow him. I'm following Gary, and he had to go to the ATM for some reason, and so it's just me and Gary at the ATM. And I was so starstruck that I still don't, to this day, I don't know what I told him. I was just like, it was just coming out. And there's no way it made sense, but still, I met him, I thanked him, and I got a selfie. And so that was it. That was the original intent. I got a selfie, I thanked him. I won. Like 12 p.m., I won. And so Gary's like, it's great to meet you. I got to go. I'll see you at 3 p.m. at my keynote. So that was it. Day made, life made. And so the energy of that conversation kept me going till 3 p.m. So now it's keynote time, and really excited. Gary walks on stage. People are freaking out. I'm freaking out. And Gary, like, immediately when he comes on stage, says that this is going to be a Q&A format. So if you have questions, there's 2 mics, go line up. So I run to the microphone. I'm about 6 people deep. I don't know what I'm going to ask or say, because I've already got the selfie, but I knew I had to get in line. And I'm in line, and I'm still like, I'm just thinking what I'm going to say. I have a notebook, and I'm just scribbling down random things about me that I feel like he should know. Again, no idea what I'm going to tell him. And I'm a nervous wreck. And soon enough, it's my turn. And so the room is quiet. I walk up to this microphone, and there's this big light shining on me, and I'm nervous. My hands are like trembling. And as soon as I get close to the microphone, Gary actually calls me out while he's on stage. He's like, hey, it was nice to hang out with you at the ATM earlier. And because he remembered me, I just suddenly remember feeling so relieved. And I just started talking. And so, I started telling Gary, hey, again, my name is Zain. I've been a moderator for your First Line Facebook group for the last year, working with your team. I'm a big fan of, I'm a huge fan. I've got your books, your shoes, your wine. I don't drink wine. I'm not a sneakerhead. I don't read, but I do all this because I feel like I owe you so much for just making me a happier human being. And then he jumped in and essentially was like, no, you don't owe me shit, but I appreciate you. And then I jumped in and I told Gary my story, because in Seattle, I moved into a house with 5 roommates and a hamster to save money, because he gave me, his content was actually the motivator for that. And so I told him that, told him some more about me. He jumped in he started talking about the hamster thing and moving in with 5 roommates, and he loved that. And as soon as he was talking about that, I was like, you know what? I just have to tell Gary my dream is to work on Team Gary, which is the truth. I would do anything to be a community manager on Team Gary. That was the dream. And so he was replying back to me, and suddenly when it was my turn again, that's the video that you see. I tell him, look, Gary, my dream, like my ultimate dream is to be on Team GaryVee doing community management. He jumps in and says, do you want to move to New York? I say, yes. And he's like, cool, let's do it. And oh my, it still gives me chills. It was still like the best moment of my life. Did not expect that at all. That's not supposed to happen. I'm freaking out. The people near me are freaking out. Some dude throws a chair in the air. Like, people are going crazy. And it's just the best. And so, I go on the stage, there's this bell there, I ring this bell and having fun. He says, email him tonight. I do that. I email him the next day. Team GaryVee reaches out to me the next morning. A few days later, I have a phone call. And because I just moved back to Dallas 2 weeks ago, they're like, look, you just moved back to Dallas after 5 years. Spend some time with your family if you need. And that's what I did. I spent 5 more months in Dallas. I did some more free work for Gary's team leading up to that point. And then in August 2019, I moved to New York to work on the team, and I've been here since.
That's just incredible. I
crazy.
can't imagine the point at which you said, I should ask for this job. I could actually get that, because you had to think it was possible when you said it.
No.
That's amazing.
Well, it's funny, right? Like, the biggest thing is, like, one, there's no way I expected he would say it. That's just obnoxious for me to even think that, I feel like. But for me, it was like, look, the upside is so high. Like, the upside is my life could change and I could have my dream job and nothing's ever going to be the same. And the downside is he'll say no to me. The people around me, these real estate people who I don't know, might laugh. And Gary's still going to remember me as the guy that asked for a job. So 5 years later, when I do it again, I might have a higher chance. Like, the upside is so higher than the downside. I owe it to myself to do it. And that's literally how my brain works. And so luckily it worked out for me this time, right?
That's fantastic advice for everybody. When you weigh the up and the downside, and the downside is usually almost nothing when it comes to something like that, when it comes for the ask. So no, I love that. So
yeah, man.
I've seen some of the other stuff that you've posted. For example, you had the comment about what you would tell your 20-year-old self, which I thought was just golden when you posted that a couple of weeks back. And I went back to try to find it and couldn't find it because I wanted to reference that. But so you wouldn't have any advice for yourself. But for example, I got a son that's 24 right now, recently out of college. And actually, you guys have made it so that I have a much easier understanding and I'm a lot more at peace with what he's doing. If I could just tell you a quick story about him.
Yeah, please.
When he went to school, getting straight out of school, he got an internship with the UN down in Mexico City, which isn't exactly what we wanted. I mean, Orinda, where we live, where he grew up, it's a kind of upper middle class area. Starter homes in my town are $1 million plus. So he grew up around money. There are people that he grew up with that manage hedge funds and other investment advisory companies that were interested in taking him under their wing. He was big in public speaking. He was one of the top in the state at some public speaking competitions over the years during high school. So he's got a way with words. He communicates well. He's really smart. And he goes down and gets this job gets an internship for 6 months in Mexico City with the UN. And then afterwards says, I want to do something like this. And he stays down there with no job, just going through his savings. Wow. And he ended up getting a job with an NGO down there where they're a watchdog group analyzing governmental crime statistics and calling the government on the carpet for stuff. Not a country where I really want him doing that sort of thing.
Wow.
But he is so excited and so happy with it. And he says, I'm going to do this for the next few years and see where this takes me. And watching Gary talk about it and saying, what if someone does something from 20 to 30 where they're going out and tasting different things around the world, and then they realize, shit, I need to get serious and get a real job and start my normal life. He said, at 30, you're still young. So coming to that realization, I have become so much happier watching him doing what he's doing. Again, I wish he were doing it at a place where it's safer to be coming
Yeah.
out against the government when the government's trying to hide stuff, but it's what he's passionate about and he loves it. He taught himself data mining. So he's actually gotten a job as a data scientist for this NGO, and he didn't study that. He taught himself R and Python so that he could analyze all that stuff. And
insane.
The UN has actually hired him to come back and teach data mining to their people that he used to work with when he was working for free. So,
dude, he's crushing it.
What I would have said was a huge mistake after watching the content you guys are putting out there and the stuff that Gary says about letting kids be kids and be careful about not exerting your wishes on another parent and things like that. And it's amazing. And I'm not worried anymore about what's going to happen to him.
Yeah, man, he'll be fine. And you know, it's funny. I have my own story that I think will very much relate to it and maybe help. Is like, so at Amazon, you know, I was there for like 4 years. At 25, my last year at Amazon, I was 25 years old, and I was managing I was responsible for 1,500 people. Like I had like I moved up super quickly, way more faster than I should have. I was just ambitious. I was working hard. That's who I am. And I was making really good money, but I was miserable, dude. I was so miserable. I literally like got to a point where I would wake up on Mondays and have real panic attacks. And I just hated everything. But the reason I stuck with that job that was making me so unhappy, and really quick, this is not a jab at Amazon. It's just, I was just doing something I shouldn't have been doing. That's not an Amazon thing. That's a me thing. But the reason I stuck with it was because at the time I felt that I had to stay in this job because it was good money. I was at a young age, I was an HR manager for a huge site. I was doing so many things that I thought was what my parents wanted me to really do, because they were so proud of me. I'm the oldest child. After a lot of trouble, I finally got this amazing job, and for 4 years just kept moving up. And 2, I thought all my friends and family were looking up to me and like, wow, like he had shitty grades. He was, this troublemaker. Now he's here at this level. That's incredible. I realized I was doing it for them. And what ultimately happened to me was one night, and this was when I was in Cleveland. So I was just calling my parents just to check in. We were just having a regular phone call. And I called my dad just to check in. And on the phone, he's like, how are things going? And I just started venting to him, not with the expectation that he was going to convince me to stay, but with the expectation he was going to convince me to leave, but rather the opposite. I thought I was going to tell him this and he'd be like, yeah, you need to stay. Like, you're going to be fine. This is life. Because he's like a hardcore immigrant dad. He's a little tough. And I told him, I just vented, and it was just quiet for a little bit. And then on the phone, he responds with, so why are you still there? And I was like, well, this is just what I have to do. It's a high paying job. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And he said, no, dude, I made all these sacrifices so we could come to this country so you could be happy. And if you're not happy right now, you're doing me a disservice. Like, you need to leave this job now. And I'm not joking, dude. I didn't know that was the permission I needed. I'm not, like, literally, I left the phone call. I felt all the pressure that I had for the last year and all the anxiety I'd built up, literally just leave me. Like, I just remember feeling so free. No joke. The next morning, I called my boss who lived a few states away. I said, I'm done. And it turned in my notice. And I didn't realize that was the permission I needed to go be happy. I didn't know I was doing it for my parents. I didn't know I cared about my dad's opinion or my mom's opinion. At the time, if you asked me, I would say, no, I don't care about their opinion like that. But I really did inside. And until I got the permission, I didn't realize I needed that to go do. And so he gave me the permission. I went ahead and did what I wanted to. And that's when I joined geocaching. That's when at geocaching, even though it was good, I left so I could do what I wanted to do. And so since that call with my dad in late 2017, in October 2017, I've only been just doing what I want to do and what's best for me, because I know I'm doing them a disservice by not being happy and doing what makes me excited. And so that's kind of my version of that story.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just crazy how things work out, man. Like, for me, it's like a lot of people like, Zain, you're so lucky for getting the job you have now. And it's so true. Like, I'm so incredibly lucky and grateful, but it's also about putting the work. For me, it's like luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And so, yes, super lucky, but I also made sure, I think the other thing is you have to be prepared to take advantage of the opportunity when it's time. And so I put in the reps. I I was a volunteer moderator for free for Gary's Facebook group for a year, understanding the ins and outs. What is community management? What does that look like? What's bad? What's good? Like learning it for myself, and then presented myself for the opportunity when it came. And so going back to the original question is, what would you advise people that maybe are younger or in the same age group as myself, based on the DMs and the conversations I've had, is like, one, go after what you want to go after. Cause I promise, like, getting paid a high amount doing something you're not excited about is not worth it. I've lived it, and it's just not worth it. But two is, luck is undeniably a big factor in what happens to you, but you also have to put in the work. So make sure, like, no matter what you're chasing, like, you're doing the work. So when the opportunity does come to you, you're ready to take advantage of it.
That's the thing. You got to be ready when the opportunity's there. I think if you had hesitated at all when he said, "Hey, do you want to come to New York?" it might not have panned out.
Yeah.
Didn't waste a second. He said, "Yeah, of course. That was fantastic."
Yeah.
Do you know if the entire exchange back and forth is online anywhere in any videos?
Yeah, so
I haven't seen any more than just that short little clip.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's not online currently anywhere else. I was able to, in my current capacity, go in and dig through the server and actually find it. Yeah, it's not online anywhere. I think there were just maybe some, I don't know. So I'm not sure why it's not, but I just don't think actually that whole keynote is not online. So I might talk to the videographers and see what happened, but I have the video. I don't think anyone else does.
That's fascinating. No, that's wonderful. And I don't know if they're saving it for something else, or if maybe they couldn't publish that keynote in its entirety, or whatever the reason.
I'm sure they have their reasons. But yeah, man, I definitely have it. And so I still look at it, I've seen it maybe 2 or 3 times when I first started originally, just to see what that exchange really looked like. Yeah, man, it's just crazy. Like, it's already mid-January. Like, I've been here 5 months now. Like, time just has flown by, and being a resident on the team is incredible, man. Like, I'm learning so much here. This is my first time doing anything real marketing, like this. Like, yes, I've been a volunteer moderator, but this is my first time having to do it, and getting paid for it. I'm actually doing it for literally Gary's brand, which is insane. And I'm learning so much, dude. Like, everyone on the team is super nice, super supportive. And I think, like, what I really like about the team the most so far is just like that spirit of, like, we're cool with failing. Like, let's try, like, the answer is always like, cool, let's try it out. Like, let's see what happens. Cause the worst case scenario is the market, the people, our community doesn't vibe with what we're putting out. Cool. Then we get that feedback, so we know what to do. And because we're so open to failing, we're open with being creative, experimenting. And then all that failure and experimenting leads to the thing that is successful, from what I've seen. And so it's just a very healthy place to work, because when you're not afraid to come up with ideas, no matter how insane they sound to you, I just think that manifests a lot of creative spirit in where we work.
It's amazing. Just incredible. No, I'm in awe, taking a look at some of the different things.
Yeah.
So tell me, is there a common myth about what you do that you'd like to shed some light on? What people think as opposed to what it really is?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about myths. I mean, I will say, like, speaking as myself, like, coming into, going from a fan to actually being on the team, like, I always knew, like, Team Gary worked really hard, but I was also like, okay, they've got like 30 plus people. Like, what are they doing where you need this many people? More like curious, like, where is all the time allocation happening? And once you get here, like, okay, cool, we've got like 34, 35 people on team for just Gary's brand, and there's still so much work to do. Like, there's so many things that we're all working on that we've got our hands in, that it just, there's still not enough hours in the day sometimes. There's just so much going on, but it's a very fast-paced environment. But again, like, everyone's so supportive that it just feels really good. I'm trying to think if there's any myths though. I think some people think that it's just very, like, based on the DMs I've gotten, I never thought this, but based on the DMs that I've gotten, it's like, what do you guys do all day? Like, do you guys just sit around and play video games? Like, no, we do a lot of work, and it's nonstop. And there's a lot of ideation, creating videos, like they're creating content very quickly. So there's just so much going on that there's never a dull moment, because the moment you think you're done, something else pops up. And I love that.
No, it's incredible. So this may be an off-the-wall question. If it's something you don't want to touch, that's fine. Do you understand, have you ever heard of Price's Law?
I don't think so.
Okay. What it says is, in any organization or in any domain, half the useful work done by that group is done by the square root of the participants. So VaynerMedia, you got 1,000 people there.
Yeah.
I cannot, just from what I've watched with Gary's speaking and his attitudes and the way he does things, I cannot picture him tolerating half the useful work being done by 30 people and then basically carrying the rest. Or with your group of 35 people, you'd be talking about 6 people doing half the actual work and the rest are just kind of doing the other half together. I think he's found a way around that, because it's supposed to be human nature. And I don't know if it's because you take the attitude that no ideas are bad and let's put it out there, let's hash through it, or if it's, if we made a mistake, we fire that person quickly, get them out. But I cannot picture that culture being pervasive in your company.
Yeah, it's well, look, I've been here 5 months. It's hard to talk about VaynerMedia because I'm so much more ingrained with Team Gary. Like, that's where I'm spending a lot of my time, even though I obviously get to hang out with VaynerMedia people a lot and they're incredible. I think with Team Gary, like, we're all equally working super, super, super hard. And I think the reason we do that is because we're all super, invested in Team Gary's, like, we know, I think based on the conversation I've had, we know, like, look, what we're putting out is making a huge impact on people's lives for real. Like, the DMs that, especially on the community side of things, I see a lot of DMs come our way as Team Gary, and we're really making impact on people. People are making money because of the flipping content. People are feeling more motivated because of the content. People's lives are really changing, and so I think a big part of Team Gary, what keeps us going to work so hard and push out the high volume of content we do, is we know we're making a real impact. At least that's for me, like that's where I come from. But yeah, I mean, going back to your point again, I mean, we're all working really hard. Like, all of us are putting in the hours, and all of us are, the cool thing I love about it is I'm not a videographer or an editor, but I'm still going to meetings and talking about ideas that I have for videos. And so what I love about it is there's no like, Zain, you're in community, you can't speak up about this. Like, we're all one team, even though we're doing so many different things, and everyone is encouraged to go to all types of meetings and really get to know who does what, and be able to openly talk about our ideas and our feedback. And so, yeah, I know that doesn't necessarily answer your question, but I can tell you from Team Gary's perspective, like, we're all working super hard.
Yeah, I actually think you did answer it.
Okay.
Because in your group, if that rule applies to your organization, it'd be 6 people doing half of everything and the rest just kind of filling in the rest. And I don't get that feeling from you. And so I think Gary's actually found a way to defeat that part of human nature. I don't know if, for example, when I was your age, Dilbert cartoons were real popular. And Scott Adams had, he'd worked at Security Pacific Bank, which later merged with B of A. He'd worked at Pacific Bell, which is now part of AT&T again. And he was just writing about stuff that he would see at work. And there's a lot of dead weight and a lot of people wasting time. And I think the hierarchies and the fiefdoms and the fear to fire people, and the fact that they want to move someone who's not producing just to another department or something and just get them out of the way, that is so pervasive in corporate America. I think you guys have found a way around that. And kudos to you for it. It's fantastic if you're able to do that, because you're changing a very real aspect of human nature that's a problem.
Yeah,
So,
man. And I think a lot of it's just top down, right? Like
mhm.
Gary, Claude, all the senior leadership, like there's no ego. I was in a one-on-one with Claude, our chief heart officer, just talking to her, meeting her and giving her feedback on my first few months, just jamming. And I told her one of the coolest things I've noticed, especially being in HR and in some other companies before, was that like the culture I was trying to instill when I was doing other things in my past life, like I'm seeing it here in real life. And I think a big part of that, there's no ego. Like
Mhm.
the CEO, like Gary, like there's none of that. There's not that ego. Like he's super open. I, as a resident, as like an intern, can go into his office and talk to him. And I mean, he's Gary, like he's a CEO, and he's so open to that. Claude is open to it. Every senior leader I've talked to at VaynerMedia, I just literally walk up to them, and there's no like, hey, why are you talking to me or anything like that. It's actually the opposite. They get really happy when new people come up to them and talk to them and get to know them. And so I think that culture, it stems down from the top down. And because
That's
Gary
brilliant.
and the senior leadership is so nice and approachable and accessible and has an open door policy, I think that kind of spreads throughout the organization.
No, it's fantastic. I love that. Okay, so here's an off the wall question for you.
Yeah.
Apart from GaryVee, who's the person you look up to the most?
Man, that's a great question. There's so many, right? Like it's such a tough question for me. Um, Man, and it's not because I don't value. It's not because I don't look up to other people. I look up to so many other people.
Hmm.
I'd say I'd say a couple people that come to mind, just off the top, whether they're at Vayner or outside of Vayner. I mean, inside of Vayner, like obviously like Andy, who's our brand director for Team Gary, D-Rock, who everyone knows, May, who's my
Hmm.
boss. I mean, I really look up to them. I get to work closely with them, and they're super amazing, just in terms of leadership and just like being good people. I think outside of Vayner, I've got a lot of people. I look up to Tom Bilyeu from like Impact Theory, Jesse Itzler. Um, I look up to a lot of people in comedy as well. That's one thing that I really love watching, is like stand-up comedy. There's a lot of people, man, but Gary had such a big impact on me, and he's super special in my life because for whatever reason, and I think we all have our own versions of why we like Gary and the things he's done for us with his content. But for me, like he was just someone who gave me permission to go do things. Like when I was debating between saving money and moving in with 5 roommates, or staying with 1 roommate and spending a lot of money, I watched a piece of content that made me go take one direction. When I
Sure.
was debating between leaving my job at Amazon with nothing lined up or being in that company, yes, my dad's permission really, really helped at the very end, but Gary's content is what started me to even think about doing that. And so he's just kind of given me permission. So he's very special in that regard.
That's fantastic. I love that. So was that your group that was involved in the huge content deck that you guys put out on Gary's birthday, or
Yeah, that
where?
was all. I mean, that came from Team Gary.
That's fantastic. I've been going through that over and over again and trying to
You
use
enjoyed it?
everything I can from it. Oh yeah, it's great.
That's
I'm
awesome.
trying really hard to get to where I can easily produce 100 different postings and pieces of content every day going out. And
Yeah.
um,
Well, and I think the big misconception, right, based on a lot of people I talk to, is like, that's not feasible. And it's like, yeah, but if you look at the deck and really break it down, I mean, a good number of that 64 pieces of content a day is tweets, it's Instagram stories, it's,
mhm.
quick micro content. I think everyone thinks that 64 pieces of like really polished, beautiful, like high, spending type of thing. And it's like, no. Like these are tweets, these are IG stories, these are little things that you can do to build up to that. And a lot of people are starting to do it. There's some people on Twitter that are I don't know, you might have seen it. Every day they're posting what they've done, like how they've done their content for the day, and they're hitting 64. Some of them are barely missing it. I've seen this one guy, I forgot his name. I wish I could give him a shout out, but he started with just making 10 pieces a day after he saw our deck, and he's been documenting every day what he's been doing, and now he's hitting like 55 a day. he's talking about what he's done to make it more scalable and the impact it's had. And so, yeah, I'm really glad you're enjoying that deck. I think it's a really special one. I even learned so much from it, even though I get to live and breathe it every day, you know?
Sure, because you're putting the game plan out there that people can actually follow and go down the list and make sure they're hitting different things. And
yeah,
you know, I come up with other ideas and different ways to do things every time I do it. And that's actually why I finally got started doing the podcast. This is episode 5 of the podcast, by the way. I was holding out trying to get Gary to come on, and I was kind of stalking him around and sending him messages and emails and everything else. But I figured you'd be a perfect stand-in for him, especially in light of your story and everything. And so a big part of what I'm doing is I'm starting to cut out small clips from the different interviews I've done, and that's going to start becoming more content to put out there as well. Because, you know, just in the time we've been talking right now, there's probably 50 different 15-second segments of pure gold that I can put out there, just based on what you told us. And the attitudes and the game plan and the tips and the strategies you guys give us are just unbelievable. So I really appreciate your help there.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And, you know, again, like, I'm so new, right? I'm only 5 months in, and before the last 5 months, like, I was someone that was just a part of, you know, I was a part of the community. I was consuming the content. I was actioning on what I was learning. And so, you know, I can so relate to anytime someone messages me and says, hey, love the video today. Hey, love the weekly V. Hey, love this kind of stuff. Because it's so funny. You know, I talk to people at work, and they're like, you know, Zain, now that you work here, do you still, like, how do you consume Gary's content? And for whatever reason, maybe it's because I'm still 5 months in, but at work, I'm working. But when I go home, or when I'm on the train going home, I can still consume Gary's content as a fan, as a part of the community for whatever reason. And so it's funny, even though I'm there watching Weekly V go out, when I watched Weekly V this morning today, I watched it as a fan and I got really excited. And so I totally understand that. And it's really cool to have people like you in the community that gain value from it.
Oh, it's a tremendous amount of value. It's just fantastic. So
awesome,
you've moved around a lot.
Yeah.
What do you like most about New York? Obviously, apart from your job, I'm sure your job is what you like best. But
yeah,
what else do you like about New York?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, definitely the job is incredible, and that's what gets me going. But I mean, in terms of New York itself, like, there's just like a weird, and I know you hear this, but it's hard to believe it unless I feel like living here or you're here long term, is there's just this weird energy here. And so, and one thing I'm glad that was a misconception was, you know, you come to New York, a lot of people are like, hey, everyone's mean, like, they're always on the go, they've got their AirPods on, no one cares about you. And that couldn't be more unreal. Like, I've been able to meet so many amazing people in New York. I made tons of new friends just by walking up to people at coffee shops or wherever, and just saying hi to them. And so that myth definitely was unproven. But the biggest thing is I just love the vibe here. There's something about going outside, seeing all these people, meeting people, and everyone's like up to something. And that's what I seem to like. Like, yes, like, everyone's got their jobs, but when you talk to someone here, I'm like, what's your passion? Almost everyone has some answer. And I don't know if that's just a New York thing where people are always on the go. They're trying to either make money or try to follow their dreams, but it's like very like dream chasing kind of city feel. And I love that. Everyone I met has some really interesting story on how they even got to this city. And it's cool. The people you get to meet here are definitely my favorite so far.
That's wonderful. No, I love that.
Yeah, it's a special place for sure. Obviously there's some challenges. You have to learn the subway system. You have to get used to a lot more noise than normal. But overall, I mean, the pros definitely outweigh the cons right now, and I'm really digging it. It's there's just a different vibe here, and also there's just so much to explore. And I like that you can, you know, living in Dallas, living in California, living in Ohio. Yeah, everything was so spread out. Like, you had to get in a car, you had to drive 45 minutes to get somewhere. Here, you just hop in the train and you'll get there. And everything seems more accessible. There's not like a road trip I have to plan. I can just get from point A to point B pretty easily. So yeah, man, it's just a really fascinating place, and I like it. It's very fast paced.
Very cool. So, trying to see the best way to put this. If you had to give one piece of advice to an entrepreneur, a small business owner, for what they should be doing to get the word out about what they do, what would you tell?
Yeah, I mean, you already know this, right? It's just posting regularly, and I think a lot of people, I think a big part of it, what I've seen small businesses that are doing really well that hit my feed, I don't look for them. They just, I happen to stumble upon them, usually on LinkedIn, just the way the platform works. But it's just sharing your story, right? Storytelling and documenting too. I think just by putting out content, and I think the biggest thing is people overthink content. Like people think that everything has to be polished. And I also think the biggest thing, and this is going to be an interesting conversation, I'm curious to get your take, but I think a lot of people stereotype certain platforms for no reason. So what I mean by that, and I have a great example is like people think LinkedIn is business platform. Like if you don't post businessy things, whatever that means, you can't post on LinkedIn. And that couldn't be further from the truth, especially now. So for one example is before I moved to New York, the week before I moved to New York, I was eating pizza with my mom in Dallas, and we were at some restaurant. And as we were leaving the restaurant, there was a sign on the door of the restaurant that said, hey, it pretty much said, hey, if you're homeless or if you're struggling, come in, we'll give you free food. And I just thought that was a really cool gesture. And so while I had another pizza box in my hand, I snapped a quick photo of it. And this picture looks ugly. You can find it on LinkedIn. It's just like, you can see my silhouette. It's like wet, like the angle's terrible. Lighting looks awful. And so I posted that picture on Facebook and on Instagram because I just wanted to share like, hey, this restaurant in Dallas is doing something really cool. Check them out. I posted that same photo on LinkedIn, and my friends, when I posted it, because I was next to them, were like, why are you posting that on LinkedIn? It's a business thing, like those same stereotypes. And I said, no, it's just a content sharing platform. I posted on there. That post became one of my highest engaged posts. I think it had like 200, 300,000 views, like all these great comments. And a lot of people that were commenting live in Dallas and now are visiting that restaurant, all organically. And so I think there's this weird thing where people, for some reason or another, put these weird, interesting stereotypes like TikTok is only for kids, LinkedIn is only for business people, and that's not true. Yes, those communities exist. Yes, TikTok is more younger right now. Yes, LinkedIn was very businessy, and it's starting to get away from that. But I think the biggest thing is too many people get afraid to do something that they feel is not the right thing for a platform, and you should always give it a shot because you just never know what is right or what's wrong. It's the people in that community that are going to tell you.
Sure. And I've actually noticed that some of the content that people like the most on LinkedIn when I'm posting is some of the kind of silly stuff.
Yeah.
Now, if it's profane or if it's too juvenile, I usually
Of
skip
course.
LinkedIn with it. But it just depends. I mean, even some of my TikTok videos do well on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's a nice way to get a really concise, 60 seconds maximum piece of information out there. And some of it I only keep on TikTok, and some of it goes out to Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and everywhere else. And it's funny because I haven't been doing that much on TikTok. I've only got a couple hundred videos up there. But this like 9-year-old girl at CVS a couple weeks ago recognized me because she's seen me on TikTok.
That's crazy.
And most of the TikToks I do are, now I didn't tell you this before. I don't know if you've seen that from my content. I'm a mortgage broker. So I do a lot of financial advice, credit advice, how you can fix your credit yourself, what you can do to avoid mistakes, just all kinds of things like that. And when I find things that I see people, mistakes they make a lot, I kind of go on crusades hammering on this, even though it has nothing to do directly with my business. This is something I know about, and so I put it out there, and people appreciate it. So
that's cool.
Chances are this little girl saw something about telling people what to do when it's time to apply for their first credit card, and she recognized me, and she was poking her little sister saying, I've seen that man on TikTok.
Wow.
And
that's insane.
Well, yeah, because it's a very small community. My office is in Moraga, California, which is next to Orinda. There's maybe 15,000 people in the town, and the thought that some girl out of all the billions of people on TikTok happened to see me and recognize me locally was just insane.
It's cool, right? And yeah, man, it's such a good example. And so that's such a good example of like you not, overthinking it and just putting it out there. And so That's it, man. That's what everyone always asks me, like, why are you always on my LinkedIn feed? Why are you posting so much on LinkedIn? And it's just because I know it's such a great time to be there. The people I get to meet are really cool and are also usually some really big decision makers at some companies I just like to learn more about. And I just don't think there's like right content for any platform. I think that, yeah, you have to contextualize it. Like the copy you're going to put on TikTok posts probably won't be the copy you put on LinkedIn. Usually, yeah. I'm sure there's some, overlap, but outside of that, I think the content can usually be the same from my experience. Actually, a lot of what I post on my Instagram, I literally just copy and put that on LinkedIn. And the only thing I'll change in the copy is instead of Instagram, I'll put LinkedIn to make it more contextual. And then I'll just see what happens. And so, yeah, man, going back to your question, the biggest thing I'd say to them is post, don't overthink. Like, and don't let the stereotypes of a platform stop you from doing something you're interested in testing. Because again, what's the worst that can happen? You'll get 0 likes or you'll get 10 views. If that's the worst, but the upside, the best thing that can happen is something goes viral and a big decision maker sees it and that changes, your business. I'd say the upside, just like what I said earlier, the upside is so much higher than the downside. You should do it.
No, I agree with that. And when Gary spoke at the AIM National Conference back in October, that was the mortgage broker conference in Las Vegas.
Cool.
One of my friends got up and asked him a question. I wasn't there. I had a conflict and I couldn't go to Vegas. But she stood up and said, "Can I post too much?"
Yeah.
And Gary said, "No, post as much as you can. The algorithm isn't going to let anybody see very much of what you post, except for the 50 people that like everything you do, and they're going to see everything and they're going to be excited and like it. But nobody else is going to get saturated with your content because the platform's not going to allow it. It's not going to show it to them unless they start showing interest in what you're saying."
Yeah, absolutely, man.
You almost have to do 100 pieces of content a day just to have any chance of the right people seeing one of them.
Yeah. I mean, think about it, right? Like when you go to Instagram right now, and you have even like 100 people on your Instagram that are following you, or you're following, like, let's say you're following even 100 people or 200 people on Instagram, the thing at the very top where you see their stories, you only get to see like 6 or 7 circles at the top. Like you're not seeing the other 93 or 94 circles on the story. So you're not going to be able to see everyone's content all the time. And so that's the thing. That's the way I think about it too, is that's why I post on my LinkedIn 2 times a day, one time at like 11 a.m. and one time usually around like 5 or 6 p.m. So that way I can capture different types of audiences in different places. And same thing with Instagram too, is I post stories throughout the day. So I have a higher likelihood of appearing in people's like story thing at the very top. So they'll see it. Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more with that from experience as well.
Cool. So tell me, is there something that you think I should have asked you that I haven't? Is there a question you're expecting maybe that I missed?
Yeah, no, I mean, you did such a great job. And I really appreciate the questions. It was fun deep diving with you. I think that like, I can't think of anything. I will say just for context, because some people ask like, Zain, like, what are you like actually doing there? Like a lot is just like, obviously like with Team Gary, like we're all involved in different roles, which I think makes it so much fun. But yeah, I think, a big part of my thing right now is community management, community engagement, and really understanding how to engage and be a resource for as many people in the community as possible in a meaningful way. And also really focused, you've seen it with the Surprise and Delights right now. With the 90-second club, that's a fun one, and some other things we've got cooking up that I think you guys can be excited about. Yeah, man, community is like where I'm in that sphere, in that bubble, and I'm always thinking about, literally I'll be walking somewhere and I'll just be thinking about like ways to engage. How can I make this thing engaging? And that's where my mind's at. And again, like when I came here, I felt like, especially given my HR history, like I had very, 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 very minimal experience in this realm. And literally just in the last 5 months alone, it's crazy when you're on this team and the opportunities you're given. Because of those, I feel like I've up-leveled so much. Like I'm thinking about things so differently just by being around these really creative people, man. So nothing that I wish you had asked, just quick update that things are going really well, man. I'm super excited to be here.
No, that's awesome. Well, listen, I really appreciate your time. I was so excited when I saw you agree to do this because, again, that's something that I thought there was no way was actually going to come together. So it's perfect, and I've been wanting to get the episodes to start going out. Again, I've got several people lined up who I wasn't moving forward with their interviews, trying to keep slot 5 open. So this is great. I really appreciate it. If you ever think of anybody you think I should interview,
Yeah,
please
I'll let you know.
shoot me off a message, let me know, because I'm trying to get as much interesting information out there. My first episodes have been a couple CPAs that are very, very involved in social media.
Awesome.
And another, so this one guy, the second episode was someone who was working at PricewaterhouseCoopers and realized that their marketing was atrocious. And so one day realized that, and this is one of the big 4, big 5, whatever the accounting firms are nowadays.
Yeah.
I don't know how many are left. And so he saw something and realized that they didn't know what they were doing, went back to his office and thought about it and put in his notice and started a marketing agency. And so,
Whoa.
yeah, I mean, and that's like jumping just as fast as you did once he realized and once he saw the opportunity. And
Love
he's
that.
out there producing content at scale, and he's taught me a lot of what I do. I've got credit specialists, I've got some bankruptcy attorneys, I've got other accountants, I've got other marketing people lined up that want to get on there. Basically, anything that I can do to help people with finances in any way, their taxes, accounting, obviously mortgages, because that's what I do, but I only do that in California. So I can't help most of the people that are going to see this. But
Yeah.
I can point them in the right direction. I can tell them how to make sure they find the best deal and what to look for. And that's part of what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put my best information out there every day. So
That's awesome.
You guys are helping me out a lot with that, and I am so grateful. One of the things that I've started doing this year is when I have clients that go to a closing, if they drink wine, I'm giving them some empathy wine, because
That's
I just
amazing.
think it's a little way I can pay back, and it doesn't come even close to equaling the value I've gotten from you guys, but I do that, and I tell people about what you're doing, and I tell all of my friends that are in business about the 270-page content deck, saying you guys have to read this. Just take one idea from it, and it's going to be worth it. And I'm trying to put the information out there because I believe in what you're doing too, and I am so grateful, and I have learned so much. And so thank you. If you don't have anything else, I guess we can wrap it up.
No, I appreciate that, man. And again, like I'm right there with you. I think we all, like, including myself, like I was consuming the content, taking action on it, and that led to where I am now, doing something I love. And I appreciate that, man. That's what it's all about, man. So I really appreciate that. I'm right there with you. I think we all, actually really fun. Like I was let's definitely consuming the content, taking action on it.
Reach out anytime,
and that
Zain.
led
Thank you.
to, you got it, man. Where I am now, doing something I love. And